बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जैसे कि आपको मालूम है कि यूनिवर्सिटी जो है वो उसमें ऑनलाइन क्लासेस हो रही हैं, उससे ड्यू टू सम एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव प्रॉब्लम। तो दिस इज़ माय थर्ड लेक्चर। ये मेरे लिए ये अवेलेबल कर रहा हूँ आपके लिए ऑनलाइन। और सबसे पहले मैं आज थर्ड लेक्चर की आउटलाइन जो है ना वो आपको सुनाता हूँ। आज हमने पढ़ना है जी आज हमने पढ़ना है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड इट्स काइंड, डेफिनेशन ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, enforcement of agreement legal contract, essentials of valid contract, classification of a contract, difference between agreement and contract, difference between void and agreement, ये गलत लिखा है, difference between void agreement and valid and void agreement, difference between illegal and void contract, difference between a void agreement and voidable contract. तो लेट्स प्रोसीड विद द लेक्चर। सबसे पहला जो टॉपिक है वो डेफिनेशन ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की डेफिनेशन जो हैं वो 3-4 हैं और बुकिश जो हैं वो आपको पता ही है कि पोलाक साहब कोई हुए हैं, उन्होंने कहा कि एवरी एग्रीमेंट एंड प्रॉमिस इन्फोर्सिबल बाय लॉ इज़ अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। ये एक यूरिस्ट है पोलाक, और एक और हैं सालमोंड। उनकी डेफिनेशन है, अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज एन एग्रीमेंट क्रिएटिंग एंड डिफाइनिंग ऑब्लिगेशन बिटवीन द पार्टीज। एक्चुअली नाउ एज अ बिजनेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, you as a firm or many of you might be having that sole proprietorship, that means one man company on one man firm. So you will have to enter into contract with some other firm or with some other person, mostly with other firms. So what will be your obligations and what will be your rights? Those will be defined by the document prepared as contract. And in my the most narrated definition by where in my lectures is the contract is a tool to secure the promise. Of course, one party makes promise to the other party, and once that promise has to be secure, and secure promise करने के लिए you convert that promise into contract, and contract is always written. Now coming on to further discussion, सर विलियम एंसन हुए हैं, वो कहते हैं कि an agreement enforceable by law made between two or more persons by which rights are acquired by one or more to act or forbiddance on the part of others or others, यानी to do or not to do something. Contract could be for doing or omitting something to do, restraining somebody to do something, ये भी एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो सकता है। अच्छा, नेक्स्ट है जी सेक्शन 5(2)(h) जो है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट का, वो कहता है इट प्रोवाइड्स एन एग्रीमेंट इन्फोर्सेबल बाय लॉ इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। दस अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंसिस्ट ऑफ 2 elements, an agreement and enforceability. Now you can see every contract is not enforceable by law. For example, if person A contracts with person B to supply drugs at certain time in exchange of certain money. Now such a contract, of course, if one party defaults, the other party cannot go to court and say look, he did not supply me the drugs, the ice or the chairs or whatever. So such a contract would be a void, will not be a contract because it is not enforceable by law. Similarly, other contracts, if somebody gives a promise to somebody that I pay you 1 lakh rupees, you go and kill Mr. D. So such a contract will also be not, because killing somebody, committing a murder is not legal, and it has a punishment and death penalty. So an act which is legal has to be that only that enforceability of the contract would be if the outcome of the contract is legal, if the activities of the contract are legal. For example, you take another example. You set up somebody, you contract somebody, will make the fake money, the fake currency notes, and for that matter you are expert in in making blocks, so you will provide me the blocks and I'll pay you this much amount of money. This contract will also be not enforceable by law, so it will not be a contract. Now coming on to the agreement, every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration of each other is an agreement. अब आ गया इसमें एक और चीज आ गई, कंसिडरेशन. अच्छा, promise could not be only one, there could be many promises. For example, you buy something from somebody will have to deliver it. So it has to be packed, it has to be transported, and during transit period it has to be insured, and it has to be delivered, and it might require certain special packaging. So all these promises will include that. For example, you buy a cow from somebody, and the कलादा, वो जो उसके गले में एक रस्सी होती है, वो उसके साथ उसको देनी होती है. एवरीबडी नोज कि कोई भी काउ का ट्रेड जब होगा, काउ की सेल परचेज होगी, तो काउ को किसी रोप के साथ बांधा हुआ होगा. This was a layman example. Now if coming on to the business, you are a business business student, so you will be business administrator, somewhere manager, somewhere marketer, somewhere finance manager, or somewhere human resource manager. So managers. So now, for example, you ask somebody to deliver certain LEDs for certain laboratories, for certain lab. Now LEDs will have to be packed, because if it is not packed properly, it can break in the transit. So for that matter, you will have to pack it, and of course you will have to provide those cushion material so that it is not broken in the contract, and the seller will also give some warranty, and it will delivery charges and its warranty and training operation in how to operate it. You might require some training also, and of course the remote control. So all these things are part of that contract. It couldn't be that you will pay you this much amount of money and you will deliver an LED for computer lab or for some media lab. Other things will be, so that will make a set of promise. So agreement, as it defined, is a promise or set of promise against forming a consideration. Consideration, उर्दू में इसको कहते हैं बदल. If I pay money and buy this spectacles, so my consideration is that it will ease me to read small text, and the seller who will sell this piece to me, his consideration would be to earn some profit, because he has already purchased it from some manufacturer, and he has purchased it, let's say, in rupees 10, and he will sell it to me in rupees 12. So 2 rupees will be consideration for him to make money, and for me consideration would be to ease myself in studying the small text, which I otherwise cannot read because of the eyesight problem. Next, so consideration is very important. Without consideration, there can be no why one should do something. Why one should do something for somebody. So consideration has to be there. Without consideration, you can say कि किसी ने किसी का बच्चा अगवा कर लिया, और बच्चा अगवा करके फ़ोन पे उसको कहा कि फलां चीज़ फलां जगह पहुंचा दो, या फलां बंदे के साथ ये एग्रीमेंट कर लो. तो बच्चा अगवा हुआ है, उसने वो एग्रीमेंट कर लिया है. अब वो एग्रीमेंट जो कर रहा है उस पर उसकी कंसिडरेशन वो नहीं है, वो कुछ और है. तो कंसिडरेशन बहुत ज़रूरी होती है either you have to avail services, or you have to maximize the profit, or you have to buy something for typical use, for a specific use. ये जो consideration है, it could be anything. It could be money, it could be intangible things. For example, when you know that nikah is also a type of contract. So what is the consideration? If the consideration is to have children, to have offspring, and the love. Love is also consideration, because you love somebody, so you want to marry him or her. So that will be the promise उनके बीच में हो रहा है, to live in wedlock, to meet each other's sexual requirement, to help each other in bringing up children, to have children. Both the couples will desire to have children. So their consideration could be love, their consideration could be, or it could be both. And mostly these are both considerations are there. So consideration, without consideration, there can be it does not make sense. Again, once we will study further, that the duress aspect will also be discussed. Let's see what the book says. Section 2b defines promise as when the person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto. The proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. Now here is उर्दू में इसको कहते हैं ईजाब व कबूल, proposal and acceptance. Now अब बेहतरीन एग्जांपल जो because you are a business student, निकाह की जो आपने देखी है सेरेमनी, वहाँ पर एक इजाब होता है, यानी वो इजाब करता है कि जी मैं फलां दुख्तर फलां को आपके निकाह में देता हूँ अगेंस्ट हक मार सिक्का राजिल वक्त बमुताबिक शरीयत मुमदी सिक्का राजिल वक्त पाकिस्तानी रुपए 10 लाख रुपए हक मार के एवज़ में ये प्रपोजल आपको देता हूँ। कहते हैं मैंने कबूल किया, तो ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट प्रॉमिस जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बन गया, प्रॉमिस बन गया, हैज़ टू बी एक्सेप्ट, आपने इजाब किया, उसने कबूल किया. ऑफर एंड एक्सेप्टेंस मेक्स अ एग्रीमेंट. ऑफर जो होती है वो ऑफ कोर्स जब आप एक दुकान पे जाते हैं तो जो शोकेस किए हैं उसने आइटम और उसके ऊपर प्राइस टैग भी लगा हुआ है, तो ही इज़ ऑफरिंग यू दिस, he is offering a price and he is offering that item to you. What you do is you pay the money and buy that item. So जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया, एग्रीमेंट हो गया, उसने एग्री किया हुआ है कि whosoever will pay me this much amount, he will get this item. ऑफर एंड एक्सेप्टेंस. आगे चल के जब आप बिजनेस डील्स करेंगे तो फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर रनिंग अ फैक्ट्री और यू आर मैनेजर, यू आर फाइनेंस मैनेजर ऑफ सम फैक्ट्री एंड your company wants to buy a generator to have its own independent power supply system. Now for that matter you will ask for the proposals, जिनको कहते हैं RFP, request for proposal. RFPs are published in the print media. Those can be published in the electronic media. Those can be printed or displayed or can be dished out on the social media, so on the website, and of course in the public procurement regulatory authority if you are a public organization. So what you do is you invite proposal, and there will be many firms who will be giving you proposal. Company A would say my generator is Cummins, my generator is let's say Siemens. So all they will offer their proposal, and which suits you more technically and which is the lowest price offering. If you accept it, so then a contract would be made. So you see, offer and acceptance makes a contract. Now if we get into that, if we go into that detail, so proposal also could be two. The commercial or the technical? Let me put it to silence so that you are not disturbed. I have put it to airplane mode so it will not disturb. I was saying that proposal could be technical, could be commercial. For example, that I have given you, that your company wants to buy a generator, and there could be many aspects of generator. The fuel consumption, the efficiency, the output that it can generate, the kVA that it can produce, the warranty period that the company is giving you, and of course the the space portability, how many spare you need to maintain that, the mobiles, the fuel. For example, a generator which only runs on high octane petrol, it will not be cost effective. It will be giving you those kilowatt hours, but it is not cost effective. It could be very efficient in giving electricity, but it could be very difficult to maintain because of the high cost of fuel. So you will buy a diesel generator. Similarly, there is another generator which runs on low speed, HSDO, low speed diesel oil, which is also called furnace oil. So for that matter, you don't have to buy something, you have to make an efficient purchasing. The item that you buy, it meets your technical requirements and it does not cost you much. So for that matter, you will receive two types of proposal from all the firms: the technical offer and the commercial offer. So what you do is, you open the technical offer first and you evaluate all the proposals technically, and whichever suits you most where its mobiles are cheaper, its spare parts are easily available and they are cost effective, only that generator you should buy, and whose training, who does not need much of training, it is user friendly. Other aspects, all these aspects are evaluated. Then among those, let's say you have received 15 proposals, 15 technical proposals and 15 commercial proposals. Out of 15 you select 5. So now you will see only the commercial offer of those 5 generator suppliers, or the OEM. OEM means original equipment manufacturer. After you open their proposal, the technical proposal, technically 5 are acceptable. Among the 5, then you can see who is offering you most cost effective or most cheaper, which is the offer which is less than the others, or the least offer. Now from the least offer you say your equipment is technically acceptable and your offer is commercially acceptable because it is lowest offer, so you provide this item to us and we will pay you this much amount of money, right? So next is, we are covering essentials of the valid contract. So third consent essential is the consent of parties. Both the parties offering something and accepting that must do it with their own free will. Take the example of generator. Whosoever is selling the generator, it is his business to earn money by selling, by trading in the power generating equipment. And the buyer, he wants to have an independent power supply. So both the parties have their own interest and nobody is compelled to do something for any reason. For example, you take somebody's child is kidnapped, and you say you provide this generator at the cost of rupees 5 million instead of 10 million, otherwise your child will be killed. Now he would be he will be compelled to sell that item at a much lesser price, which he is otherwise fixes. That is where the essential, another essential of the contract comes in, that both the parties must offer a price, or must make a technical or commercial proposal with the free will. There should be no party should be under duress. Similarly, on the purchasing side, if your boss, your managing director or your executive director has some relation with somebody, and he asks you, yeah, you have to buy it from that firm of Rana Associates. Rana Associate is a relative of the managing director. It could be उसका दामाद हो सकता है, उसका भतीजा हो सकता है, उसका भांजा हो सकता है. तो वो जो चीज़ होगी वो एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं होगी, क्योंकि अब आप उससे परचेज कर रहे हैं because you are under the influence of your boss, and your boss wants you to purchase this item. So your free will, the free will of the company, free will of the overall entire management is not there. It is being bought from somebody because of some personal relation. So next is the a promise comes into existence when one party makes a proposal. We have discussed. We have discussed a lot of examples also. Essentials of a valid contract, to some extent. First essential is offer and acceptance, of course. Second essential is the legal obligation, the capacity of the party, of course. This is another essential. For example, you cannot enter into a contract with you cannot into a contract with somebody who is I mean to say, you cannot do that. आप एक ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर से एयरक्राफ्ट का मुआहदा नहीं कर सकते. सिमिलरली आप एक ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर से you cannot make a contract that he should supply you aero engines. Aero engines are different things. So capacity of the parties is very important. That is the reasons when the underage underage marriage is prohibited. For example, a 30 years old man marries a 12 years old or 10-year-old woman or a girl. So what is happening? The girl is not in a capacity to हक़ ज़ौजियत अदा करने, जो मैट्रिमोनियल obligations उसके ऊपर हैं. She is a minor. She cannot do that. That is why it is prohibited. It is prohibited to marry an underage child with somebody who is of an old age. Or even underage marriage is otherwise prohibited because both the parties are not well aware of their goods and bads. So the capacity of the party is very important. अब आप एक कवि को कहेंगे वो ढोल बजाए, तो ढोल नहीं बजा सकते, उसके पास तो चोभी पकड़ने के लिए वो है ही नहीं. या एक एनिमल को कहें जिसके विंग्स नहीं, आप कहीं मुझे उड़ के दिखाओ, वो तो नहीं फ्लाई कर सकता ना. Free consent we have already discussed. Free consent is an essential, very essential of the valid contract. That party should not be under some duress. Parties should not be under some influence. Parties should not be biased, and there should be no other than consideration जो है उसको, उसके अलावा there should be nothing bad about it. Free consent. And 6 is the legal object, the lawful object. Lawful object means that at the end of the performance of the promise, whatever has happened is lawful. Buying something, buying an item for your company for your personal use is lawful and supplying it is lawful. So object is lawful, the contract is, it's a very essential aspect of the contract. Next is the writing and registration. Writing an agreement makes it a contract, because what you say something, it gets into air, it strikes somebody's eardrum and produces a sound, and he listens it, and he may forget. He promises with you to do it, but he may forget, and then it is difficult for you to prove that I told him to do something and he promised it to do that against a consideration, but he did not do. Now enforceability factor would require witnesses. So writing down an agreement makes it वो मैंने इस दिन भी on the very first lecture I told you कि आप छोटे से छोटा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट भी है तो उसको लिखने से गुरेज ना करें. वो मैंने पहले दिन आपको कुरानिक पर्सपेक्टिव इसीलिए दिया था कि यू शुड नो कि राइटिंग एंड प्रॉमिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. यानी अल्लाह फरमाते हैं कि आप छोटी चीज़ ये सोच के कि स्मॉल ट्रांजेक्शन है इसको क्या लिखना, नहीं, आप लिखो और उसको गवाह भी लो. ऑब्वियसली जब वो रिटन में होगा, और मैंने आपसे उस दिन कहा था कि इट शुड बी नॉट ओनली इन राइटिंग but the drafter should be a certified licensed scribe, or it could be on part of company, its legal manager legal, or on part of any supplier, his legal advisor. You can hire services of an advocate when you want to draft an agreement, and the companies, they have legal advisors. SECP जो हमारा रेगुलेटर है सबसे बड़ा कॉर्पोरेशन का, वो बाइंड करता है कि एवरी फर्म मस्ट हैव अ लीगल एडवाइजर, एंड दैट लीगल एडवाइजर हिज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज आर टू वेट द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स दैट कंपनी इंटेंड्स टू मेक विद समबडी. एंड वेटिंग, ऑफ कोर्स, वेटिंग विल रिजल्ट इन करेक्शन, एंड करेक्शन मीन्स ड्राफ्टिंग. So drafting an agreement first of all, then vetting it from legal aspect or any aspect, that makes contract very much enforceable, because it is then its a hard copy is produced. Now another thing is that you have written it and you write it on a piece of paper, एंड दैट पीस ऑफ पेपर आपने किसी कापी से सफ़ा फाड़ा, उस पर आपने एग्रीमेंट लिख लिया, और उसके बाद वो पीस ऑफ पेपर की फ़ोटो कापी कराई, एक ने रख ली, एक ने एक रख ली. अब क्या है कि दोनों वो पार्टियां, वो जो उनके पास अपने अपने, एक के पास असल है, एक के पास फ़ोटो कापी है, वो दोनों से गुम हो जाता है, तो कोई भी पार्टी उससे फिर सकती है. तो ज़रूरी हो जाता है कि आप जाके उसको रजिस्टर करवा दो. रजिस्ट्रार ब्रांच होती है, हर ज़िले के अंदर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होती है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के अंदर एक रजिस्ट्रार होता है जिसको सब रजिस्ट्रार भी कहते हैं. गांव के अंदर तहसीलदार जो होता है, ही इज़ आल्सो द सब रजिस्ट्रार. आप कोई भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करें, कोई भी सेल परचेज एग्रीमेंट करें, कुछ भी करें, कोई भी चीज़ आप जो जायज़ हो कानूनी नज़रों में, आप उसके पास ले जाएं और उसे कहें कि हमने रजिस्टर करवाना है, तो वो जो विटनेसेस हैं उस एग्रीमेंट के, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के, वो जो सिग्नेटरीज हैं, दे ऑल विल गो देयर. आजकल तो फिल्म भी बनती है, यानी वो वीडियो बनाते हैं, तस्वीर भी लेते हैं, लेकिन आज से 5-10 साल पहले ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. वहाँ पर दोनों पार्टीज जो हैं, वो जो बायर है, जो सेलर है, वो एंड देयर विटनेसेस, they go there and the contract is registered. They put their thumb impression before the registrar, and registrars ask simple question. आपने आपको कोई दबाव तो नहीं है, वो देयर इज़ नो ड्यूरेस ऑन मी, आप अपनी मर्ज़ी से ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं, जी हाँ जी मर्ज़ी से कर रहे हैं। उसके बाद इट गेट्स रजिस्टर्ड एंड इट इज़ अवार्डेड अ रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर विद डेट। नाउ व्हाट हैपन्स, वो उस रजिस्टर को अपने रजिस्टर में इंदराज करने के बाद उसकी कापी को मुहाफ़िज़ खाना उसको कहते हैं, आर्काइव्स भी कहते हैं, इंग्लिश में आर्काइव्स कहते हैं और उर्दू में मुहाफ़िज़ खाना कहते हैं। वो मुहाफ़िज़ खाने में उसकी एक कापी जो है वो रख छोड़ता है और पार्टीज़ को अटेस्टेड कापियाँ ड्यूली स्टैम्प करके दे देता है। नाउ ईच पार्टी हैज़ इट्स ओन document which is registered, and if both the parties they lose it, so they can come back to registrar साहब and say कि रजिस्ट्रेशन सीरियल नंबर 45 पे 5 मई 2012 को जो एग्रीमेंट आपके पास रजिस्टर्ड है, वी वांट एन अटेस्टेड कापी ऑफ इट। दैन वापस खाने से वो अटेस्टेड कापी लेके तो वो आपको दे देगा। तो आपको ये फ्री ऑफ माइंड है कि आपका एग्रीमेंट जो आपने किया है वो रजिस्टर्ड है और रजिस्टर्ड एग्रीमेंट की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, उसकी जो है आगे लीगल लिटिगेशन, उसमें बड़ी वो सक्सेसफुल हो जाएगी। अच्छा, इसमें एक चीज़ और भी है कि कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स ऐसे भी होते हैं जो आप रजिस्टर करवाते हैं, जैसे विल है, अडॉप्शन डीड है, ट्रस्ट डीड है, देयर आर लॉट्स ऑफ डीड्स, those are always registered. So any contract that you make with some firm or in personal capacity and you want it to be registered, you can bring it to a registrar and he will register it. Even the rental agreement, when you buy some premises for your company or you buy it for your personal living, so you have to get that rent agreement registered with the controller of rents. Each district has one controller of rents who deals with the rental matter. Now if your agreement is not registered with the rent controller and you want to file an eviction petition, you are a landlord, or if you want to continue living when your landlord is saying you leave it, now you can go to controller of rent and tell him, look, we entered into this agreement. Now landlord is shutting me out of the premises, whereas I am ready to pay the rent, and my children are studying in school, and I am living very in the close proximity of my job. So my movement from this place will add to my miseries or will add to my troubles. So I want you to adjudicate and tell him to continue receiving the rent and let me live there. Now you can go to court for this relief if your agreement is registered with the controller of rent. Otherwise there is a way, you have to pay the penalty पे करें और उसको बैक डेट में रजिस्टर करवाएं और उसके बाद then you can file the eviction petition or you can file the whatever is relief required. So registration of a document is very important. Registration आपको सेवा, otherwise if you don't want to register it but you have to safeguard your contract. अब एक और सवाल आपके ज़हन में आता होगा कि स्टाम्प पेपर यूज़ होते हैं नॉर्मली एग्रीमेंट लिखते वक्त, उसकी क्या वजह है, अगर स्टाम्प पेपर पे ना हो तो क्या हो सकता है, अगर उस पर हो तो क्या हो सकता है। now स्टाम्प पेपर जैसा कि आपको पता है, देयर इज़ अ रजिस्टर्ड लाइसेंस्ड स्टाम्प वेंडर in every city, in every urban or rural area. Stamp vendor has a register. He gets those stamp papers from the security printing press, and each paper is numbered, and each paper is issued to somebody. Once it is issued to somebody, he registers it on its stamp vendor register, gives it a serial number, notes the CNIC number of the person buying or on whose name it is being issued. Then he takes his thumb impression on the register and on the counter folio of that stamp paper. इससे क्या साबित हो रहा है? The date is being established, that on which date this stamp paper was purchased, and it was purchased by somebody, so his free will is established because he himself came to stamp vendor, he wanted to buy one. So what has established? The date, the consent and the area, station from where it is purchased. आपने एक मुआहदा किया, लाहौर में किया, रावलपिंडी में किया, इस्लामाबाद में किया, कहाँ किया? You bought a stamp paper from a stamp vendor who is licensed in certain district. तो वो एरिया, वो जगह, यानी इसको कहते हैं ना ज़मान व मकान. मकान इस्टेब्लिश हो गया कि किस जगह लिया गया, किस डेट को लिया गया. ऑफ कोर्स वो डेट उसमें आएगी. फिर ये है कि डे लाइट में लिया गया, रातों को नहीं जारी करवाया गया, छुट्टी वाले दिन नहीं जारी करवाया गया. तो आपने जारी करवाया, उसके बाद आपने उसके ऊपर दोनों ये समटाइम्स बेस्ट इज stamp paper is bought by both the parties, who are the buyer and the seller or whatever. Both the parties they should jointly go there, they should jointly get it issued, and then it is, if it is registered, and of course property related stamp papers have to be registered. Nowadays आजकल तो ई स्टाम्प आ गए हैं. पंजाब में, इस्लामाबाद में भी वही चल रहा है मैनुअल सिस्टम. इन पंजाब यू गो टू बैंक ऑफ पंजाब. बैंक ऑफ पंजाब में आप फीस जमा कराते हैं, स्टाम्प पेपर की वैल्यू जमा कराते हैं कि इतनी वैल्यू का स्टाम्प पेपर चाहिए, किस पर्पज़ के लिए चाहिए. योर नेम, CNIC number, biometrics are taken, and an e-stamp is issued. It is printed on a simple paper, but of course e-stamp number is awarded to it, so it becomes an electronic stamp. In Islamabad, still we are using the old system. So for writing an agreement, stamp paper is important. But remember, it is not always that the contract has to be on a stamp paper, or it has to be notarized, or it has to be registered. I have seen, and you will see in your life too, contract of this much thickness in a paper, in a book shape. They are not registered, they are not even on a stamp paper, but they are enforceable by law, and they are also performed. Import and export companies import, companies export. There are lots of activities which have to be done. The carriage, the cargo has to be shipped through a ship. Shipping agent is involved. Then a porter, the Karachi Port Trust, the port or dry port trust is involved. Who charges you the harfage, and who has to unload, who has to load, who has to provide transport to the consignee warehouse, who is consignee, who will carry out survey in case of the breakage of package, what will happen, how the warranties would be claimed, how warranty will be extended, why warranty would be extended, how much would be the transit period. All these things are written in those contracts, and contracts are very thick document. There is no notarization, there is no registration, but still those are implementable. And not only here, they are also implementable through court of law, and they are also implemented through International Court of Justice. But those are governed different. So for consideration, the companies first exchange letter of intent. Companies at time sign memorandum of understanding. Contract हुआ नहीं, एक understanding होगी, so that is brought on record. Then LCs are opened, then cargoes are booked through shipment, then shipment takes place. So such contracts, even if they are not registered, they still, even if they are not on a stamp paper, still they are implementable and they are operated in the prevailing trade and commerce. Next essential is, writing and registration we discuss, certainty of terms. So terms must be certain. There should be no ambiguity. I can share with you in a personal example. When I was in embarkation headquarters in Navy, so we bought, Navy imported some equipment from France. Every activity was, certain and it was written, except one. That is stevedoring. Stevedoring was an important aspect of our import-export contract. That aspect was missing by mistake. Somebody's mind, somebody erred. It was human error, and that aspect was missing. So now what happened? Ship came on the plant. Transport is ready to take the cargo. Cranes are ready to lift the cargo, but the dock labor, which comes on the ship, which hooks on the cargo, that labor was missing. Who has to bear that expenses? That was missing. So all the activities that are required to be performed. So in that particular example that I have given you, the stevedoring, because of lack of this overlooking of this contract, the clearance operation was halted. Everything is ready. There is no labor. Nobody has brought those labor to hook on the cargo. So it delayed, because if you have not seen a ship has multiple cargo holds. On one hold number one, there is a certain packages. Those are removed. Then the hold is opened, hatch is opened, and cranes can access the second hold. Then that cargo is cleared. Then so there are multiple cargoes on different holds. So our cargo was in the first hold. So we were stuck due to this stevedoring problem. What happened? The other importers whose cargo was in the lower deck, they were insisting कि भाई उठाओ अपना सामान जाओ यहाँ से, हमारा भी लेट हो रहा है. And each second that a ship overstays in a port, he has to pay a vihar fee. And vihar fee is of course depending upon the tonnage of the ship, it is charged by the Karachi Port Trust. So then what happened? We were the clearing agent of the Navy. So we ran around and we arranged some payment by making a promise to the shipping agent. You undertake this activity and let's proceed with. So he was kind enough, I would say. He, on our promise that we will pay this bill, he arranged stevedore. Stevedoring is that activity, and the labor that carries out that is called dock labor. And हर जगह पे लेबर की अपनी यूनियन, अपना एक होता है, नौकरी होती है. If you go to Karachi on the native jetty, it's normally called Nati jetty, it is native jetty. On the native jetty bridge, on one side there is a very elegant building of the PNSC, Pakistan National Shipping Corporation. On the other side there is a very elegant building of Karachi Port Trust. And behind the Karachi Port Trust there is a building known as KDLB building, Karachi Dock Labour Board building. And Karachi Dock Labour is very expensive labour. It's not an ordinary, their wages are very high. So they can come and they can hook on the cargo, they are specialized too. It's not an easy job. So certainty of term is so important. Who has to, you can't run around at that moment. अच्छा जी ट्रक लाना, ट्रक किसने देने हैं, वो जी कार्गो, अच्छा रेलवे ने वैगन्स प्रोवाइड करनी है, रेलवे ने वो की नहीं है जी, भागो जी रेलवे. Every activity have to be documented, and those terms have to be certain. Again, I would give you another example: certainty of terms. Navy imported Lynx helicopter from the United Kingdom. Now those helicopters were there, and those had to be lifted through a special chain, and those were to be hooked down from the router. जो आपने देखा कि हेलीकॉप्टर के 3 ब्लेड होते हैं, वो ब्लेड तो होते नहीं है जब हेलीकॉप्टर आते हैं, वो फोल्ड होते हैं और उतारे होते हैं. उसके ऊपर, उस रोटर के ऊपर एक स्पेशल स्लिंग लगता है, येलो स्लिंग उसको कहते हैं. उस येलो स्लिंग से ही उसको उठाना. अब this aspect was also missing, so helicopter was lifted through a normal cargo net. Cargo net हम देखें एक बड़ा सा नेट होता है, इसके अंदर कार्गो डाला जाता है और चारों कोनों से उसको हुकान कर लेते, तो वो फिर हुकान हो जाता है, तो फिर वो पोर्ट पे कर जाता है. तो दैट हेलीकॉप्टर वाज लिफ्टेड विद द कार्गो नेट, एंड ड्यू टू दैट हेलीकॉप्टर वाज डैमेज्ड. सो every term has to be there, and it has to be certain कि how to lift this cargo. इसको मतलब आपने पढ़ा होगा, अक्सर पैकेजों पे लिखा होता है handle with care, fragile. So these are the things. The term has to be certain, term has to be clear. Next is, this was certainty of term. Next is possibility of performance. Very obvious. The contract has to be performed, and activity and result, accomplishment of a contract must be a possible activity, commercial activity, possible outcome. Any contract ending up in some impossible performance, it's not possible, because then if because of non-performance of somebody, you must have heard the term suit for specific performance. There is a contract signed between two parties. One party performed its part, the other did not. So party A files a suit for specific performance, and then if it is not possible to perform, the other company, the other party can come in and say this performance is beyond my capacity, I cannot do that. So performance should be possible, it should not be an impossible performance. For example, you say we want to have security guards of Bahria Foundation for our firm, and this should result in better goodwill, creation of goodwill of the company. Now later on, if your goodwill is not created, you cannot hold responsible Bahria Foundation. Your security guards were not good, so the company has not achieved its goodwill. Our company's standing in the public has been damaged because of your security guards. Because the job of security guards is to provide security, not to increase or decrease anybody's repute. So such performances are the possible performance. There should be a performance possible for the party to achieve it. Alright. So possibility of performance. And 10th is not expressly declared void. Of course, it's very obvious. As I have given the example for the agreement between two parties for sale of drugs, obviously it is void on face of it. It is void on face of it. So कहते हैं कि prima facie it is a void. Without any pondering, without any analysis, you can say it's a void agreement. It should not be expressly void, or it should not be expressly declared void. आगे हैं जी kinds of contract according to enforceability, valid or void, though there are two kinds. Now when we go to kinds, so valid, I have told you, a valid contract is enforceable by law. An agreement becomes enforceable by law when all the essentials of a valid contract are present. वैलिड और वाइड दो टर्म्स हैं. वैलिड ऑफ कोर्स कहते हैं कि दिस थिंग इज इन वैलिडिटी, दिस थिंग इज not valid nowadays, and void is something which is not valid. If it is not valid, it is void. So void contract, the word void means not binding in law. Contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. It means that a void contract is not void from the beginning. It is valid contract when it is made, but subsequently it becomes void due to certain reasons. Now void and valid and void agreement एक तो स्टेट हो गया कि शुरू में तो ये वैलिड था, बाद में ये void हो गया. अभी जैसे कि एक चीज़ थी जो पहले पाकिस्तान के अंदर वो उसका ट्रेड अलाउड था, लेकिन बाद में कोई लॉ ऐसा आ गया कि उसके ट्रेड को उन्होंने प्रोहिबिट कर दिया. तो दैट मीन्स वाइड एग्रीमेंट. इट वाज वैलिड व्हेन इट वाज मेड, बट इट वाज व्हेन इम्पॉसिबिलिटी केम इन, it became a void agreement. For example, this keeping a knife without license was punishable offense. यानी इसे आर्म लाइसेंस होते हैं, इसी तरह हैविंग अ नाइफ वाज आल्सो अ एक तो नाइफ होता है ना टू कट वेजिटेबल्स और टू यूज एज अ यूटेंसिल. देयर इज अ नाइफ स्पेशली यूज टू किल समबडी. वो कहते हैं कमानीदार चाकू भी उसको कहते हैं. उसके अंदर वो खुलता है तो किड़ करके खुलता है, और जब वो बिल्कुल स्ट्रेट हो जाता है फिर बंद नहीं होता, जब तक वो बंद नहीं होता उसके अंदर कमानी होगी. This was only person having license could have that, but it was nowadays it is no more. It's not bothered because more sophisticated weapons have come, and people like to keep those instead of having a knife. So these are things which was initially which can be void, which is valid at the beginning, but at later stage it become void. Similarly, you can say there could be anything. For example, in Saudi Arabia, this carrying asfar was allowed. It was not a contraband. But nowadays, I think they have banned this item also. And now, if you are caught on airport with a pack of asfar with you, you can be punished. You can be fined. So. If it was made in those days when it was not a contraband, it was valid, and later on it became a void when it was banned or it was declared contraband. Alright, impossibility of performance, again void agreement would be that which is not possible. Actually, these are highly overlapping terms, and I don't know why they have made it part of your syllabus. It should be, these are good for the law students but not good for the business students. Rejection of a voidable agreement and impossibility of depending event. Yani, if you say this thing will be done on certain event, कुछ होगा तो ये होगा, so that is also, let's study it. A totally buys B car for ₹20,000. The contract is voidable at the option of B, may accept or reject it. B rejects the contract if becomes void. Impossibility of depending event. A contingent contract is that the performance of which depends upon the happening of or non-happening of a certain event. It becomes void when the event does not happen. Normally the contract of insurance is depending on certain event. आजकल तो आपको होता है कि जनरल इंश्योरेंस जो है, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस तो है ही. जनरल इंश्योरेंस में वो कहते हैं कि इफ़ योर क्रॉप इज इंश्योर्ड, अगर टिड्डी दल आ गया तो उससे लॉस हो गया तो फिर आपको लॉस आपका रिस्क मिटिगेट हो जाएगा, रिस्क कम हो जाएगा. Similarly, warranties and guarantees and the personal sureties, these all are these all are the depending on the certain events. And when that event does not happen, and still somebody wants you to do that, so then it can be voidable at later stage. Void agreement, an agreement not enforceable by law, is said to be void. The void agreement does not create legal obligation among the parties, and it is void ab initio. Void ab initio means it was void when it was entered. The basic consideration, the basic core activity of the contract was void when it was signed. In void agreement, there is the absence of one or more essential of the valid contract except free consent. An agreement with minor and an agreement without consideration is void from the beginning. Also, minor or insane. The person who is not aware of his goods and bad is minor, and the person who is insane, who is mentally disturbed, or who keeps, sometimes he is mentally healthy, sometimes he is not good. He cannot think of certain things. He cannot think of his mental capacity keeps on changing. So such a person would be termed as insane. An agreement with insane, an agreement with the minor, and agreement without consideration. These are void agreement ab initio. Obligation of parties. In void agreement, any party who has received an advantage is bound to restore it to the party from which he received it. Both the parties are not responsible for performance of the agreement. A void agreement में एक obligation of parties वो तो हो रहेगा नहीं, और अगर उस परफॉर्मेंस में एक ने दे दिया है वो दूसरे को वापस करे. फॉर एग्जांपल, आपने एक वाइड एग्रीमेंट किया कि आपने मुझे 200 ग्राम शेयर्स प्रोवाइड करनी है, फलां तारीख को मैं आपको पेमेंट करूँगा. अब हुआ क्या कि उसने पेमेंट कर दी, उसने शेयर्स नहीं दी, तो ये वाइड एग्रीमेंट था. अब वो जो उसको लॉस हुआ है पार्टी ए को, दूसरी पार्टी ने रिसीव कर लिया 200 रुपये, नाउ ही इज बाउंड टू रिटर्न दैट. अब उसको चाहिए कि वो उसको जाके रिटर्न कर दे. अगर ना करे तो कोर्ट से कहलवाया जा सकता है कि ये एग्रीमेंट हुआ, उसमें उसने मुझे दे दिया, जब मैंने देखा कि ये तो कंसिडरेशन या ये जो इसका ऑब्जेक्ट अल्लाह को में, तो मैंने ऐसा नहीं किया, लिहाजा मेरे जो पैसे उसके पास हैं वो मुझे दिलवाए. तो वो फिर पैसे उसको वापस होंगे. क्योंकि वाइड एग्रीमेंट था, उसकी परफॉर्मेंस तो हो सकनी ही नहीं थी. अगर होती तो गैर कानूनी होता. लिहाजा अगर किसी पार्टी ने गलती से कर लिया और उसके बाद वो वाइड एग्रीमेंट के आगे परफॉर्म ना हो सका, तो जिस पार्टी को लॉस हुआ है दैट पार्टी कैन क्लेम इट्स डैमेजेस और इट कैन क्लेम इट्स कॉस्ट. अभी जैसे इसकी बुक में एग्जांपल दी गई है. A promises to buy a dog from B for ₹10,000. The dog was dead before the contract. The parties were unaware. The agreement is void. Voidable agreement. An agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. A contract is voidable when the consent of one of the parties is not free. It is a valid contract until it is voided by the party having the right to avoid. Even it is avoided, it becomes void. If the party decides to confirm it, it remains valid. A contract becomes voidable under the following circumstances. A contract becomes voidable when the consent of one or more of the parties to a contract is obtained by coercion, undue influence, misrepresentation or fraud. जैसे कि एक बंदे ने एक कार जो है वो सेल कर दी, जबकि वो कार उसकी पोजीशन में थी लेकिन उसकी अपनी नहीं थी. उसने एक जेली डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया, फेक डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया, प्रिंट करा लिया, اٹ لک لائک اوریجنل ڈاکومنٹ، اور اس نے اس پہ اس کو سیل کر دیا، پارٹی نے ریسیو کر لیا۔ ریسیو کرنے کے بعد اب یہ اگریمنٹ تو بالکل ویلڈ ہوا اس وقت تک، لیکن وائڈیبل ہو گیا جب یہ پتہ چلا کہ یہ پارٹی سیلر نے مس ریپرزنٹیشن فیکٹس کی کر کے تو ایک چیز کو بیچا ہے۔ وہ الگ بات ہے کہ آپ کو بعد میں جیسے جیسے ہم آگے بڑھیں گے آپ کو میں بتاؤں گا۔ مشتری ہوشیار باش آپ نے دیکھا ہوگا کہ لکھا ہوتا ہے اکثر کہ مشتری ہوشیار باش۔ مشتری ہوشیار باش کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ خریدار جو ہے نا، بائرز بی ویئر، وینڈیز بی ویئر، جو خریدار ہے، جب مشتری ہے اشترا سے ہے، اس کو ہوشیار رہنا چاہیے۔ فار ایگزامپل اس نے کہا یہ کار میری ہے، یہ میرے پاس ہے، یہ اس کے ڈاکومنٹ ہیں، یہ آپ لے لو اور اتنے پیسے مجھے دے دو۔ نو بفور دیٹ اس کو چاہیے کہ وہ اسی موٹر رجسٹریشن آفس سے جا کے اس کی اونرشپ کو ری چیک کرے، وہ چیسز نمبر، وہ انجن نمبر، وہ مالک کا نام، وہ آئی ٹی او، ای ٹی او، ایکسائز اینڈ ٹیکسیشن آفس میں جہاں پر وہ رجسٹرڈ ہے، اس سے جا کے چیک کر لے، اور وہاں سے جب وہ چیک کرے گا اس کو پتہ چلے گا کہ یہ انجن نمبر، یہ چیسز نمبر، یہ اونر نمبر یہ درست نہیں ہے، یہ گاڑی کے کسی اور کے نام رجسٹرڈ ہے، اور یہ جو بندہ بیچ رہا ہے یہ وہ نہیں ہے۔ اب آپ وہ ایگریمنٹ ہوا تھا وہ ویلڈ تھا، لیکن اب آپ اس کو اب وہ وائڈیبل ہو گیا کیونکہ آپ کے سامنے فیکٹس آ گئے کہ جی وہ تو اس طرح ہوا تھا۔ اب ایک بچی نے وداؤٹ انڈر ڈیورس شادی کر لی، اس کو اغوا کر لیا گیا، کہیں رکھا گیا، کہیں رکھ کے اس کے ساتھ نکاح نامے میں سائن کروا لیے گئے۔ اب جیسے ہی اس کو موقع ملے گا وہ اپنے نکاح نامہ کو یا اپنی شادی کو سوٹ فائل کرے گی جسٹیٹیشن آف میرج کا، اور اس نکاح نامے کو وائڈیبل کرا کے، اس کانٹریکٹ کو وائڈیبل کروا کے اپنے آپ کو خلاصی کر لے گی کہ بھئی میری اس کے ساتھ شادی نہ ہوئی، اور جو اس وقت میں نے سائن کیا because I was abducted, I was in their unlawful custody, so to save my life I signed it, and now I got a chance, I want to get rid of it۔ ہم سمجھ آ گیا وائڈیبل کا، وائڈ اور وائڈیبل، جو شروع میں تو ویلڈ تھا، بعد میں وائڈ ہو گیا۔ وہ انڈر ڈیورس تھا، انڈر انفلوئنس تھا، اٹ کوڈ بی انڈر مس ریپرزنٹیشن تھا، فراڈ تھا، وٹ ایور۔ پر اکثر فراڈ ہوتے ہیں نا، وہ کہتے ہیں جی میں نے فرد بنوایا پٹواری سے، یعنی آپ کو پتہ ہے جمع بندی ایک رجسٹریشن آف رجسٹر آف رائٹس، ایک جمع بندی ایک ہوتا ہے رجسٹر حقداران زمین مثل میادی، وہ اب ہر 4 سال بعد وہ نیا بنتا ہے۔ تو پچھلے 3 سال پہلے میں نے میرے پاس کچھ لینڈ تھی، 10 کنال، 5 کنال، 1 بیگھہ، 2 بیگھے، وہ اس جمع بندی میں نے اس وقت تو فرد ایک لیا ہوا تھا، بعد میں نے وہ بیچ دیا۔ اب اس وقت تو میں نے فرد بے نکلوا لیا نیا اور بیچ دیا، لیکن جمع بندی جب اگلے 4 سال بعد دوبارہ بنے گی تو اب اس میں میرا نام نہیں ہوگا، اس میں نیا نام آ جائے گا جس نے مجھ سے خریدی تھی۔ لیکن میں نے کیا کیا کہ میں نے 4 سال پرانا فرد لے کے اس پہ ایک اور اسی پراپرٹی کا ایک ڈیل مار دی، تو اس بیچارے نے بھی لے لی کہ یہ دیکھیے جی بالکل اس کے پاس تو فرد ہے، تو وہ ڈیل ہو گئی، پیسے لے گیا، بیانہ لے گیا یا پیسے لے گیا۔ بعد میں جب رجسٹرار کے پاس آپ آتے ہیں تو وہ کہتے ہیں کہ بھئی یہ فرد نہیں چلے گا، یہ پرانا ہے، جو لیٹسٹ فرد لے کے آؤ، اس کو فرد بے کہتے ہیں۔ اب وہ جب لیٹسٹ فرد لینے گیا تو پٹواری نے کہا کہ اس کی تو اس کھیوٹ میں یا اس خسرہ میں زمین ہی نہیں ہے، تو پھر کیا ہوگا؟ پھر یہ ہے وہ جو آپ نے بیانے کا اگریمنٹ کیا وہ اس وقت ویلڈ تھا، کیونکہ آپ کو پتہ نہیں تھا، وہ فراڈ کر رہا تھا، تو اب وہ وائڈیبل ہو جائے گا۔ آپ اس سے کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ میرا بیانہ واپس کرو، اور آپ یہ بھی کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ اس کو اس فراڈ کے ایکٹ کی سزا بھی دی۔ 420 سیکشن 420 بیسیکلی یہ چیٹنگ کے اوپر ہے۔ یہ کہتے ہیں نا کہ فلاں نے میں سے 420 کی، وہ 420 کا مطلب یہ ہے کہ سیکشن پی پی سی کے جو سیکشن 420 ہے دیٹ از اباؤٹ فراڈ۔ Now, difference between void and voidable agreement. We have discussed difference between illegal and void agreement. So one the same thing, difference between void agreement and voidable agreement. Gentlemen, with this we come to the conclusion of this lecture. This is the third lecture, and if you have any question, I'll upload this lecture on my YouTube channel also, and you can comment on it, and I'll mark your attendance also online. And if you have any question, you can ask me from the commenting on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure you must have subscribed to my channel too. And LMS पे भी ये लेक्चर अवेलेबल होगा, आप इसको सुन सकते हैं. और if you have any query, any question, by all means you are welcome, and your all queries will be inshallah replied. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.